I want to really thank you for joining us. I know that many of us applauded the start of the new year on January 1st, 2021, but 2020 is still sticking with us as we still are dealing with an extraordinary and now mutating and changing public health crisis in the form of the COVID-19 pandemic. We've got the toughest economy we've seen in decades. We are finally, as a nation, staring in the face of racial reckoning and understanding the importance of all of us actively being anti-racist in all of our work. And this is really a lot of what we'll be talking about today in today's town hall, one of many to come, and more opportunities for you to share your views, learn from one another through the AAUW election this spring. As you likely know, our open comment period on bylaws changes is open right now, and we'll hear about that. But today, you are lucky enough to have some fantastic folks with us today from the National Board, from the Racial and Social Justice Working Group, and national member leaders in a variety of roles who are going to be talking through with you why we so passionately would like to see the membership vote to eradicate the educational requirement for AAUW membership. Now, two things on this. One, I would like you in the upper right-hand corner of your Zoom, you'll see the view box. And I'd suggest that while we're in this opening portion, that you move to the speaker view. And those of you who've just joined, if you could make sure and please go on mute and keep yourself on mute until we are in the breakout rooms. Just the speakers will be speaking in this portion. So please do move to mute. And Nakia, if I could ask you to mute everyone again, I'd be grateful. There are some, it's not popping up onto speaker view right now as several are coming in without being muted. Thank you. The next thing I'd like to say on this is, as we talk about our own commitment to diversity, to inclusion, to intersectionality, and to equity for all, it is exceedingly important that we as an organization uphold our mission and our vision in everything we do. And quite frankly, the educational requirement is an antithetical statement to that which we stand for, which is why we'll be talking about removing the educational requirement as a barrier to AAUW membership with your vote this spring. Now, many of you have been saying to me for the past few months, but Kim, what do we do if we do that? We have, because the U is in our name, AAUW, we're going to have to change our name. Oh no, what will we do? One, we've had more than one name in our history. Two, AAUW and the words that go to the acronym right now have not been accurate for a long, long time. I will briefly tell you why. One, we are not just American. Folks, we have been working internationally for more than 100 years. Two, we are not only an association. Membership, which is foundational and why we're all on this call today, only makes up 15% of our organizational budget, not 85%, not 100%. So just 15%. Three, we're not just women. We know that equity for all means we need to be shoulder to shoulder with men and non-binary people in this effort. And we started admitting men back in the 1980s. So the W has been wrong for a long time. And lastly, that U, that so many of you are concerned about as a reason to keep the education requirement. Friends, if it was to be accurate, it should only be a C for college, not a U for university. Why? Because we've been admitting people to membership who have had an associate's degrees, again, for more than 2 decades. So this is an age-old issue. Please do not get tied up in the name. The name is not the issue. What we stand for, our mission and vision, are most important. And should the board decide to move forward into a name change, please rest assured we'll work with branding experts. We don't need all of our members helping us to change the name. What is most important is that as we seek funding, as we seek to have people take us seriously, that we live our mission and vision every single time that we move forward. I know you all understand this and I appreciate it very much, but this is the #1 question that we're receiving about the educational requirement right now. So this is going to be an opportunity for you today, and this is the first of many when we will be sending out newsletters, we will be sending out messages, we will be having additional town halls so you can meet member to member and talk through the vote on the public policy priorities as well as on the educational requirement for membership, which both will be up for membership vote this spring. But now we're going to be moving in so you can hear directly from your nationally elected board chair, Julia Brown, and others, and then moving into a breakout room so you can be in small groups to talk about these issues together in this time. I thank you all for joining us today. I greatly appreciate your interest in this topic and your continued commitment to AAUW and our staff, all of whom I can tell you right now are safe and keeping their public health safe through the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as their physical safety here in Washington, D.C. in this really, really extraordinary time. And I thank you all again for being here. Julia Brown, our National Board Chair, I turn it over to you.
Good afternoon. Happy New Year to everybody. We're glad that you were able to join us today. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
All right. It's good to see that so many of you have dialed in. This is an important issue for us. We want to talk about it. The comment period is open, and as Kim pointed out, we've already received more than 300 comments. We'll be going through those and looking at them. Later on, we'll have some questions and answers to post on the website so that you can have an idea of the kinds of questions that are coming up and to see the responses to them. This is not a new issue with AAUW. There have been several attempts over the years to change this bylaw requirement. And there is now, probably more than ever, a need to change the requirement because we have seen in the last several months a racial reckoning in our nation, which continues following the events of last summer with Blacks and people of color being brutalized and killed by law enforcement officers. There have been other issues with women beginning to lose ground, if you will, in the battle for equity and equal pay. And then the most recent event, of course, was the disgraceful white supremacist attack on our nation's Capitol building on January the 6th. Anti-racism, and let me say that in speaking to state presidents and in speaking to a number of branches in the last several months, I've had several members say to me, well, what has racism got to do with AAUW? We're not the NAACP. We are a women's equity group. There is a direct nexus or connection between what happens to minorities and people of color in this country with respect to equity and equity for all. We know, for example, that when discrimination occurs, whether it is in the workplace or elsewhere, those who suffer most are women and children. So many of our households are headed by women. And when something untoward is happening to women of color, that has a direct impact on what women's equity organizations are doing and saying in this country. One of the reasons that we are looking once again at changing the education requirement, and just to brief some of you who may not be aware of what is in the bylaws, originally the bylaws required that in order to be a member of AAUW, you had to have a 4-year baccalaureate degree. And a few years ago, we moderated that and began to allow women who had a 2-year associate degree to also be full members of AAUW. And as Kim noted in her opening remarks, we then opened membership to men. We want to have members, not just those with degrees, but those who understand, believe in, and support the mission, the values, and the vision of the organization. A woman who is being mistreated, whether it's from domestic violence, whether it is sexual harassment in the workplace, whether it is pay inequity, whether she's being passed over for a promotion or not hired because she's of childbearing age, all of those things, one doesn't need a degree to know that they are being oppressed. One doesn't need a degree to want to fight to change that and to level the playing field for all women. And that's the reason why we are putting this measure on the ballot to vote on again. 137 years ago, when the organization was formed, there were very few women with college degrees. They wanted to encourage other women to get degrees, and they wanted to be supportive of one another. In today's world, that has changed dramatically. There are all kinds of high-level positions that are policy making, that are critical jobs in the workplace that don't require degrees. Women are making decisions about all kinds of things in the world, in the workplace, without the requirement of a degree. It's time for AAUW to move its legal documents and its governing documents to match what is actually happening in today's world. It's hypocritical for us as an organization of one of the leading global women's equity organizations to say that all women, all people who support our mission, our values, and our vision can't be members, can't be full members. They can only be second-class members if they don't have a degree, and not full members and not have a full vote. That's not the kind of reputation that we want to have. It's not the kind of vision that we want to reflect in the world. And we've been told as much by potential funders, by women who are, as I said, in powerful positions with no degrees, who could not be a member of the organization because they have no degrees. It has gotten to the point of being past the ridiculous and the sublime. And it's time for us to make that change. Now, as someone has asked on numerous occasions, no, this doesn't mean that we're going to have to change the name. We're not voting on a name change. We are voting on a bylaw change to make us, in actuality, what we say we are in name, and that is a full women's equity organization. Now, let me introduce some members of our Racial and Social Justice Working Group, which was appointed by the board several months ago following the unfortunate incidents involving the death of George Floyd and other people of color at the hands of law enforcement. Not all of the members of the working group are with us today, but they'll be joining us at upcoming virtual town hall meetings. Today, we have Dot McLean, who is a former national board member and a former Pennsylvania state president. We have Elizabeth Haynes, who is the chair of the who is a former chair of the National Governance Committee and a member of the National Board. We have Ruth Sweetser, who is a former National Board President. Cherry Sorokin, who is one of the moderators for our breakout sessions. And I think you're going to enjoy the breakout sessions because it'll give us, in a small group setting, a chance to really have some discussion to hear your thoughts, your questions, your ideas, and to have some discussion about it. Sherry is the secretary of the National Board. Dale Sataki is also a moderator. Dale is the national chair of our governance committee. And Myra Willis, who is the chair of, Dale is the chair of the National Advancement Committee. Myra Willis is the chair of the National Governance Committee. Now, I mentioned briefly the Racial and Social Injustice Working Group. Their purpose is to look at how issues involving racial and social injustice impact the work of AAUW. And one of the things that they have been doing most recently in conjunction with the Equity and Inclusion Committee is revamping the toolkit, which was recently rolled out. If you have not had a chance to look at the Inclusion and Equity toolkit, the revisions to it, the new toolkit, please go to the website and take a look at it. There is so much valuable information and so many resources that branches and state affiliates can use to help educate and inform not only the members of AAUW, but the communities that they are serving. In addition to some current national board members, some former national board members, the working group is also comprised of the last 5 national board chairpersons and presidents, all of whom are in favor of the passage of this bylaw change. And there has been a statement issued by the working group, which is on the website. If you haven't had a chance to take a look at it, it was sent out to all members, but I know everybody gets so many emails. Sometimes it's hard to keep up with all of those things. So if you haven't looked at it, if you haven't seen it, then please take a look at it on the website. It's got some words of wisdom for all of us. I am going to not take more time because I want Dot McLean to have an opportunity to speak to you. Dot is working with our National Board Vice Chair, Melinda Gall, to head up the education and outreach effort with respect to the bylaws change. So I'm going to turn it over to Dot and ask her to share some information with you. Dot?
Thank you, Julia. First, I want to start out and tell you why I support open membership. There's lots of reasons that I do, but for me, it really comes down to the fact that it's the right thing to do. If our organization's mission and goal is to empower all women and girls, whatever the path they choose to take, whether that's college, technical school, stay-at-home mom, all of the above at some point in their life, then I think it's fair that we include all of those women in the fight to reach that goal. It just is the right thing to do. I've been asked to highlight some of the resources that we have. The National Board supports the bylaw to open membership. So we've created some tools for the members and the leaders to use to promote the passage of this bylaw. One of those is a branch toolkit that is on the national website that has several components you can use. There is several formats of talking points. We have a full long form that is a series of questions and responses that covers some of the common questions we get about changing the membership status. Things like, we'll have to change the name. There's a bunch of them, and there's responses that address each of those. Then there's some shorter summary forms of those. There's also a guide for group discussion, facilitating group discussions. There's a statement from our working group and a statement from Kim on our commitment to inclusion and equity. And as Kim mentioned, there's also going to be newsletters sent out. We'll be emailing people, some phone banking. There's some FAQs on the website. So there's lots of resources that we hope you will use to discuss this with your branches, your members, your fellow AAUW persons, and hopefully we will get this bylaw passed. And I'll turn it back to you, Julia.
Thank you, Dot. Looking for time here to make sure we're not running over. Want to be sure that we allow plenty of time for the breakout sessions and discussion. Let me say that I've been looking through some of the comments in the chat, and I see that some people think that we're being condescending by telling them that we need to make the change. We're not trying to be condescending. None of us on the national staff or on the national board think we are more equal than anybody else in the organization or in the world. And certainly nobody is trying to be condescending. I have to say that if we want to talk about what is really being condescending, it's telling someone who supports equity for all and who supports women's rights, who supports equal pay, who has marched arm in arm with us for civil liberties and civil rights and for equal rights, is telling that woman that because she doesn't have a degree, she cannot be a member of AAUW. That is condescending. I have to share with you that I had to tell someone that once. And I felt about this tall after having done it, because it was a woman who had a heart for our movement. And it broke her heart when I told her that. She was in tears afterward. I don't ever want to have to tell another woman that. There is no good reason for us not to admit all people who support the work and the mission of AAUW. And if there is a good reason, then I hope during the breakout session, you will share that with us so that we can look at it and try to understand it. We don't want to exclude anybody's opinions or thoughts or comments on this. And whenever I'm on the opposite side of somebody on an issue, I want to hear what they have to say, because maybe they have some information that I'm not privy to that I need to know. And so let's be open-minded, let's be congenial, and let's not feel like that we're being personally attacked by this discussion about changing the bylaws, because that's not the intent at all. We are all sisters in this movement. And just like sisters in a real family, we don't always agree on everything. But that doesn't mean that we're not still fighting for the same goal and the same mission. We don't want anybody to take their jacks and go home because of this. Kim, how are we doing on time? Is it time for us to go to the breakout session?
Yeah, and Julia, thank you. Those were really powerful words, and I know they're resonating with so many of our valued members that are on today's webinar. I should also note you likely can tell in the upper left-hand corner that we are recording this main session. We are unable to record the breakout sessions just because there are almost 400 of you on here and we can only record one session, but we will be keeping this main session available and it will be posted on the website so that you can refer back to it again and again, and also encourage your fellow members in your communities to take a look, listen with open hearts and open minds, and discuss the issues perhaps in a virtual branch program soon. With that, we are going to go ahead and move to the breakouts, Julia and team, and I want to thank Dot, Julia, and so many of you for joining us to help us with the moderated sections here. So what we're going to be doing is you will automatically, thanks to my colleague Nikia McFarland, be placed into a breakout room where you will have at least one of the national leaders who is working on this issue, open right now for open comment by all members. And again, I am a member, Julia is a member, all the members of the board, yes, they're behind it, your national staff is behind it, but again, I only have one vote, just as you all have one individual vote on these issues. So we hope we can have both a congenial and spirited conversation in the breakouts now. So in just a moment here, we're going to move into the breakouts. And when you're in the breakouts, I just want to reiterate something that Julia said, and that is assuming positive intent and making sure that we have open ears and open minds. If you have any technical questions about how the vote takes place, comment periods, etc., you can certainly put those in the chat box or reach out to connect@aauw.org. If you have questions unrelated to the member vote today, say about the 5-star program or upcoming webinars or what we're doing with the Biden-Harris transition team, again, you can email me directly, churchesk@aauw.org. Place it in the chat box or reach out to our Connect team at connect@aauw.org. Excuse me. Today's idea here is obviously to talk about the education requirement itself to membership, and that is what we are going to suggest that you do. So as we move out of the main room and into the breakout rooms, you can come off of mute when you get into your breakout room. And you're going to have a moderator that's going to keep the discussion going because there's going to be several people. So it won't mean that every single person will have a chance to speak on both of the topics. The 2 questions, and they'll also be placed up there for you, are as we continue to explore ways to make AAUW a more diverse and inclusive organization, in what ways do you see the existing member education requirement being a barrier to achieving that equity? And the second are, what are some potential challenges we can face from members about the vote and questions they may have as we seek to eradicate the educational requirement to membership? And what questions do you all have in having these conversations with your fellow members too? So with that, I'm going to ask my colleague here, Nikia, to start to move us into the breakout rooms. And we'll be in those breakout rooms until 5 minutes before the top of the hour, where we'll come back together as a group at the end. Again, I thank you all for being here. Thank you for your expressions to the AAUW national staff in this really uncertain time in our nation's capital, and we look forward to your participation in the breakouts.
We close. One, to thank everybody for participating. And as Kim pointed out, we're going to be having more of these. We want people to comment. We want to hear their thoughts and their concerns about this. And I want to share one thing, because this question has come up in a number of conversations that I've had recently with state presidents and with branches. If this bylaw amendment passes, it does not mean that we're going to do away with fellowships and grants. Fellowships and grants have been a part of AAUW for well over 100 years. We have funded so many women to have an opportunity to further their education. We're going to continue to do that. This doesn't mean that we are opposed to women getting college degrees or seeking higher education. This means that we recognize that having a degree is not the only path that a woman can take to be successful in her career or her chosen vocational endeavor. There are many routes that women can take. We want to recognize and give honor to all of those paths that women can take and not lock them out or lock them into one particular path. Not everybody can afford to go to college for a variety of reasons. Finances, not the least of those, but there are other reasons why one might not be able to have the time to go to college. And We don't want to force women to go to college if they choose another career path. My sister, as an example, is an electrician. And she works for the union, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers in Nevada. I'm a lawyer. She makes way more money than I make as a lawyer, as an electrician. She's a union steward. She's a union organizer. She has worked on state issues involving equity for women and pay equity. She has no degree, so she cannot be a member of AAUW. But she, like I know a lot of your sisters and family members and colleagues and friends, are smart, articulate, passionate, and dedicated. They could bring a great deal to the AAUW table as members if they were allowed to join.
Julia, I'd like to respond to you there. First of all, the IBEW does have a training program that lasts 5 years, number one. And number two, when I contacted National in regards to an equivalent education, it would be reviewed with National, and they would be able to give a membership according to that person's background, their educational. That's what I was told on the phone. So just because you don't have
Do
a
you
degree.
know who you talked to that told you that?
No, I don't. I don't remember.
How
'Cause
long
I
ago
don't
was
call.
that?
I'm going to say a couple years ago, before I was president.
Okay.
But there was something in writing, and they even came to me that said they would review someone's background and their training to get see if it would be equivalent to an AA, so to speak.
Well,
So
I'm not sure why they thought they could do that. Neither the staff nor the board has the authority to override our bylaws.
Okay, well, that was something that I was told.
Okay.
So just to share that with
and
you.
let me clarify something about IBEW. The program, the apprenticeship program that you're talking about, varies from state to state. In some states, it's 3 years. In some states, it's 4. In some states, it's 5. But what happens is it's a training program. You are paid while you are learning, while you are studying.
Working. Well,
Yeah,
you're working.
it's an OJT. It's an on-the-job training program. Plus
But they go to school at night. They don't
plus
get paid to go to
classroom
school.
education. And I know about it because that's how my sister became an electrician.
My son did the same.
In the program
My son
in
did the
Nevada,
same.
where it's 3 years.
Uh-huh.
And when you finish the program, you are a journeyman, and you're eligible to take the state test to get your contractor's license. And other unions have similar programs.
Yeah. Hey, Marion and Julia,
Yes.
we're going to have to close out just given the time here, and we've still got 300 folks here on, just so that we can tape and close out. But I just want to again say thank you to Julia for her leadership. Thank you to all of you for joining us today. Thank you to our national board members, previous board leaders on the call, and so many others. You're going to see lots more information to come, as well as some exciting webinars coming up on what to expect in policymaking in 2021 and beyond, and the work that AAUW will be continuing. But please know that you'll be hearing many more opportunities to talk through this issue about our educational requirement to membership between now and when the election closes out. Our voting period closes out in May. With that, I will close it out here. Julia, any parting words for everybody?
Keep using your masks and keep social distancing. Stay safe.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. Please be well, and thanks for joining us.